Hey everybody, this is Perch. I have a couple of emails, especially after the activity over the last month or so, asking more or less the same questions. So I'm basically taking kind of four emails and combining them into one. And the question is, why do people view manga in competition to US comics or Western comics, depending on how you view it? I had somebody really go off on me at one point because I said Western comics and instead of, I guess, US comics. But Western actually is the correct term. And we say Western, I would hope all of you realize I'm not talking about like cowboys. I'm talking about Western as in culture, Eastern as in culture. It's just, look, I don't make the names. It's just kind of how this thing go. Anyway, the basic question is, why does it feel like there's a competition between the two? And I think a lot of people who are regular viewers of this channel, not people who come to this channel because they hear this channel discussed on another channel, the people who are regulars here, I think it genuinely perplexes most of them. I think many of you fall into one of two camps. Either you enjoy, stuff, both US comics, Japan comics, European comics. Basically, if the comic is good, you enjoy it. You don't really care where it comes from. It's the quality. I think that's a lot of you. And I think another group of you, it may have moved over to manga and you like manga, but you don't spend a lot of your time and energy thinking about US comics. You made your decision, you're happy with it, and you're going. What the US comics do really doesn't matter to you. It just you've moved on. And I think both of those are very healthy perspectives depending on how you got there, because the end goal is, you are spending money, or, if you're pirating, you're at least spending time. I've said on the channel before, and I think it's one thing. If I give one piece of advice to all of you, it's view your time as money. That's one of the biggest areas people screw up. Is your time is precious, and when you're spending your time on something, you're giving money to something. Even if you're not paying for it, you are funding something. If you're playing that mobile game on your phone, you may not be paying for it, but you basically you're not applying yourself somewhere else. So in effect, you're spending money. Time is money. Anyway, if you're spending your time in something you enjoy, cool. That's really, you should be greedy about that. Your time, your money, what you're doing, and you shouldn't let other people bait you into, using your time and money in ways you don't like. I find and there's been an evolution here, by the way. If you go back to 2017 or so, and I know because I was in a lot of these arguments, and I would say things like, here's some manga. Here's a story that's really good. I am the same guy I've been forever. So I'm like, man, that Rumiko Takahashi, really good. You should definitely go check that out. And I had a lot of US comic creators and US fans just take the piss out on me constantly. I'm like, it's baby stuff, that's pedo stuff, like all the insults you could possibly give, and everything else of that. Today, if I say I like a US comic, and I like that the book, I like that Avengers versus Aliens. It was fun. It was a surprisingly enjoyable comic from Hickman and Ribic, and it was good. And now I've got people like, you're not, you're some kind of industry cuck. And you got to ignore those voices. I bring them up here not because they live in my head, but because they actually provide pretty good illustrations of crazy people. Fortunately, you could say, your Perch is using a straw man with those personalities he's bringing up. No, it's not a straw man. They do exist. But they're also the minority. They're also the 5 to 10% of just loud and annoying dicks. The majority of people just want to read comics. They just want to, that's what they enjoy. There's a small handful of people that enjoy other people suffering and enjoy things. They've got it built up in their minds as kind of revenge. And so to answer the question, that's really why. Why is US comics and manga, why do people pit them against each other? For lack of a better word, for petty personal grudges. They're angry at US comics because their characters changed, or, it's not what they enjoy, which again is fine. There's nothing wrong with that feeling. I think that's where a lot of people want to say that feeling itself is wrong. It's not wrong. If you enjoy Star Wars, if you enjoyed the original Star Wars, the ones back, in the 70s, then, the Star Wars of today is dramatically different, and you're not expected to just love it. I mean, Disney would like you to love it, but that's absurd. You're not expected to just consume all product and then move on to next product. That's a ridiculous sentiment, and people can wish that, but ultimately you're in control of it. So there's nothing wrong with your taste changing. There's also nothing wrong with saying I used to like something, my tastes haven't changed, but the product itself has changed. So I'm moving on. That's okay. But with where manga's concerned, I mean, we got more availability. If you were paying attention, you could get your hands on manga during the 80s and 90s, but it was harder than it is today. Now there's a lot more options to choose from. And like a sports team, people who love the Cowboys do not like people who love the Broncos. But nobody loves the Broncos anymore because they're doing terrible. But as somebody who came from Seattle, I enjoyed the Seahawks. But that's tribal. Like you go to different areas, and I've mentioned before, I had season tickets to the Seahawks several years ago, and I would mention it in videos, and I had people in the comments show up just pissed that I was going to games. And that's really the same. It's no more complicated than that with, US comics and manga. There's shit manga. There is quote unquote woke manga. There's good manga. There's, epic legendary manga. There's all different types. Just like there's all different types of US comics. And today, point blank, there are good US comics. There absolutely are. There's if you say, damn it, I'm not leaving this comic store until I get a comic I will enjoy that came out in the last, 30, 45 days, you will find one. It's not like there's nothing on the shelf. If you enjoyed, the X-Men back in the 90s, you're probably not going to enjoy the current crop of books. Maybe. Again, some people are liking the Gail Simone X-Men. I didn't, and I'm not entirely sure why. I know it has nothing to do with Gail Simone. It didn't hit right for me. Don't know. It's actually no more complicated than that. I'm not going to sit and shit on it until I figure out why I would shit on it. I am liking the Jeff Thorne X-Force. Beyond that, I'm not enjoying these books. Even the ones I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy that Jed McKay book, but damn it, that Stegman looks weird. I like Stegman as an artist a lot. But man, this is not a good pairing. The two, like him, and I mean him and McKay. I mean him and X-Men. Like I don't know, doesn't work. But for me, again, it's for me. It's your own game, man. You get a pick. But I do hate the tribalistic stuff with manga and US comics because it just feels so petty and stupid. Quite, frankly, if at the point that you're pitting the two against each other, it's dumb. There's some really good manga out there to explore. The advice I've given people in the past and continues to be true is figure out kind of what genre you want. Do you want superheroes? Do you want horror? Do you want, sci-fi? What do you want? And then go looking for the top in that genre, and you're going to find it with manga. With comics, you'll have a tougher time using that approach because just the genres are not explored as much. There's just there's a lot less to choose from. I guess it'd be a little bit like if you wanted, Conan type adventures with manga. There's less to choose from. There's still some stuff. I mean, somebody is describing Berserk as Conan like, and I don't see it, but maybe some of you will. Anyway, it's bullshit. I think the people who try and fall into that game, and you could see it, in the recent video I did in community posts on, manga sales are dipping. This is like a unemotional observation. And yet you still saw people who are like, no, sir, you cannot claim any weakness of manga because that means US comics are getting better. And that's absurd. The two have nothing to do with each other. But so I think, but it's actually, I like the sports team analogy because it's no more different than that. It makes as much logical sense as, a fan of the Cleveland Browns, those three people, arguing with the Patriots, who are all a bunch of Steelers and liars because fuck those guys. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why there's not much of a rivalry between the Texans and the Cowboys. I've noticed since coming to Texas. I would have expected more of a rivalry, but I don't know. I'm sure it exists because there's a rivalry for everything. But by and large, those teams. I mean, the Dallas fans tend to just from what I've seen, kind of pretend the Houston team doesn't exist, and maybe vice versa. I don't know. I'm not a Cowboys fan, by the way. Is there anybody else I could offend? I enjoyed going to Seahawks games. I'm sorry, I just did. And did they play dirty at times? Absolutely. But I was there when Marshawn Lynch did the big run, and that was a hell of a fun time to be watching football. But the biggest reason I enjoy going to watch football, hanging out with friends, and getting drunk. That is the appeal. Seahawks winning or losing, like any team, didn't really mean much to me if I had fun while I was watching the game. And I think that's really how I feel about comics and manga and all these things. I don't really care who's winning and losing, as long as I'm having fun, reading the book. Say lovey. Thanks for listening.
Never let it go.